Morning! We've just parked up at Steel End Car Park at the bottom of Thirlmere, where we're going to head up onto the Wythburn Fells, which is just here to the left of me, that ridge, which we're going to head up over past the beacon and then eventually onto Ullscarf. Morning!
Morning!
Tracy and Billy. After Ullscarf we're going to head to Standing Crag and then work our way down from there. A couple 100 metres up the road, the footpath turns left through this farmyard. So the footpath goes beyond them trees ahead of me and then up and back behind them. There is a route up this side of the trees where that new gate is there, which leads you onto the ridge, but I think that new gate could be either tied up or locked because it isn't actually the public footpath. The public footpath runs behind that little outcrop of trees alongside this wall. So that gate isn't locked, so we could have just came straight up the side of this bank here on this side of the trees. There's the farm down there that we came through earlier. There's Steel Fell over there. From the gate, head slightly right, start raising up the hill towards the beacon. So plod away up that wall, and before you get to the top of the wall where that hole is, which will take you to Harrop Tarn, turn left here along this footpath and plod away at this ridge until you get up to the beacon, which is just up there. You'll have seen the beacon from the road if you're ever looking up at this ridge and you're driving down past Thirlmere. You can see the beacon clearly off the road. So Ullscarf's probably not regarded as one of the most exciting hills in the Lake District, but what I can guarantee is this route is absolutely beautiful. Once we get up past the beacon and onto that ridge, the views across the Wythburn Valley are absolutely outstanding. Once past Ullscarf, we'll head down to Standing Crag, which is probably my favourite crag in the whole of the Lake District. So there's the beacon. I'm not actually sure what it was built for or what its purpose is. Maybe just a shelter for a shepherd or something. It faces west, the prevailing wind, so maybe it's just to hide behind. So we've just met Anita, Tracy's sister on the fells. She just turned up, unexpected, so she's going to have a walk with us. Tracy's sister Anita.
Hi,
and the big lad is Teddy.
Teddy bear.
So we've just followed the ridge all the way up from the beacon, crossed over that little hill there behind me, which is Wythburn Fell. It's a burkitt, 508 metres. Views from these crags are absolutely fantastic. Mother sheep down there with a lamb. Just looks like it's been born. It's certainly no more than a day old. The route along these crags is just beautiful. It's epic. With that views of Wythburn Valley down there, and Helvellyn and Seath Sandal and Tollywagon Pike, Nethermost Pike, they're all in the clag over there. So you can follow this ridge all the way along, as close to the edge as you want or as far away from the edge as you want. It's all kind of off-piste, so you can pick your own way. Eventually, when we get up to the top of that ridge line up there, we should be able to see Ullscarf. I'll put my route on as a GPX file in my description of the walk. I've just started doing that, so please leave me some feedback on that one. See that you can download them routes. If you're using them, you should be able to download them from Google Drive to any navigation app you're using. Outdoor Active, Locus Maps, all trails. It should work with them all. There's Steel Fell at the head of the ridge opposite us, across the Wythburn Valley. And in the distance behind Steel Fell you've got Helm Crag. Here's the Rockstar. So that's us at the top of the ridge now, and we can see the summit of Ullscarf, which is just there ahead of us. It's all off-piste to the summit, no path that way either, but it's not too hard a ground. It's a little bit tussocky, but It's quite short grass, it's not too bad at all.
Nothing like Scotland.
Nothing like Scotland, Tracy says. And she's right. A few of these big holes you've got to avoid. According to my map, if I just stay in a straight line here, I should almost top out on the summit of Ullscarf. So there you are, Ullscarf Summit Plateau. It's a Wainwright, a Burkitt, a Hewitt, a Nuttall and a Hump. There's the summit, 726 metres. We're just going to head down off the side of the ridge a little bit to get some good views of Eagle Crag and Glaramara there in front of us. Some beautiful skies going on, very dramatic and atmospheric. There's Eagle Crag just below us. Behind it, the highest point is Glaramara. Just below Glaramara to the right is Coombe Head. So from the summit of Ullscarf we're going to head right along the ridge and start descending the ridge down to Standing Crag and Bleetarn. So we're just approaching the top of Standing Crag here, which doesn't look much from the top here, but once you see the view over the edge of Standing Crag down to Bleetarn, you'll understand why it's my favourite crag in the Lake District. Standing Crag summit, 611 metres. About 50 yards in front of us there's a big cairn that could be mistaken for the true summit, but it's not, it's lower, and that cairn is just signifying the crag itself in bad weather, to let people know, or farmers know, that the crag's actually there, because there is a bit of a drop off it, as you'll see in a couple of minutes. So from Standing Crag we're going to head down off the ridge in the direction of them trees to Harrop Tarn and then back to the car. That's where we were up there. Head down off the right hand side of the ridge where you'll meet this gully, then drop down this gully to the bottom of Standing Crag and that fence. That little hill there in front of us is called Bell Crags, 559 metres. It's a burkitt, but we're not going to head there, we're not going to get that far. Just before Bell Crags we're going to drop down the footpath to the right. That'll take us back down into Thirlmere. Tracy and Anita's on the path there now, they've turned right and descending the fell. So we're back down off the ridge of Standing Crag, and where we're going to head through this little plantation forest to Harrop Tarn. Harrop Tarn, you don't have to go over the stepping stones because there's a perfectly good little bridge here. From the tarn, head across the little footbridge, drop down through the woods a bit and you'll come to this gate at the deer fence. Through the gate and then down through the woods. There is an easier way down through the woods, but why would we do that? Careful on these rocks, they're black and slippy. We're almost back down to the road now, which is just there. We're going to have a little detour to the Binker Stone. It's just this big rock formation just down here. There's the Binker Stone. You get a great view from the top of it across Thirlmere. Through the gate at the bottom, we'll cross the road, go back through that gate there, onto the lake shore, and we'll walk back to the car by the lake. Well, we're almost back to the car now, and I'm going to wrap my video up here. It's been a great walk. The weather's absolutely beautiful now down by Thirlmere Reservoir. Gorgeous. So I'd like to say thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time. So it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me. And me.
And Billy. And Teddy.
So it's map time. Now the maps that we used for this walk are the Ordnance Survey maps, and it's the OL4 and the OL5. So we parked at Steel End Car Park, which is a United Utilities car park, and you now have to pay because the machine's working. It's about £7 for all day. But there's room for about 10-15 cars, maybe 10 cars. So we're heading up onto the beacon, which is the Wythburn Fells. So that's the beacon here. So you follow the road along, and it's not actually open for motor vehicles at the moment, so it's blocked here. So it's nice and peaceful and quiet, and you head along this footpath here. You get to a little sort of farmyard building, a barn, through a gate, and it's a lovely path over a lovely old stone slate bridge, through some trees. There's some pine trees along here, and you want to head on the access path on the far side of these trees, quite steep, through a gate onto this path here, which just traverses quite steeply up here. Quite a lot of crags along here, and you head at the bottom of the crags on a footpath. Fantastic views over Thirlmere, over to Dunmel Raise, and the mountain range here, Helvellyn. So you head up. When you get to a wall, follow alongside the wall, bit of a boggy path, you ignore the gate. The gate would take you down to Harrop Tarn. You want to stay this side, heading up, off-piste onto this ridgeline, the Wythburn Fells, and you've got the beacon here. Great views again, a nice half moon shaped wall. Not quite sure what the what use it was for. You head along this ridgeline. It's quite undulating. There's no paths, you just make it up as you go along. Follow the best ground. You don't have to kind of go up onto this ridge, you can just stay down here, make it a bit easier. But if you want great views, you head up these rocky outcrops onto the tops. There's a few tops. You've got Wythburn Fell summit here, 508 metres. We actually carried on to this cairn to keep to this edge. You've got fantastic views again, very steep on Nab Crags. Got some gullies coming down here, makes it quite dramatic. And we headed along, we kept to the edge actually, up along Castle Crag with views down into the Wythburn Valley. Wythburn Beck along here, there's some beautiful waterfalls along here. And we stayed on the edge for as long as we could. Now we're going to have to go to another map to get to Ullscarf, so I shall come back in a bit. So we're back on another map. So where I left off, we'd just headed onto Castle Crag, and really this ground is no pass at all, so it's just free for all. You just follow whatever ground you want, whatever you want to do. There's no dangerous ground here at all. If anything, it's a little bit boggy in places, but there's no deep bogs. So we just continued along here over to Black Knot, bit of a crag here, so this side of it, and then straight up onto the summit of Ullscarf, 726 metres. We went down a little bit to get the view over to Eagle Crag and Sergeant's Crag. Great views of Glaramara, and there was a fantastic inversion going on over Glaramara, the Pillar and Scarfell and Bossett Pike. We sat there for a bit and watched that. Then we headed along the fence line. You've got a rusty fence, three-pronged fence here. Head to the right to get to another wooden fence. Junction here. You've got a junction of fences here. Keep on with the fences on your left-hand side. You eventually get to Standing Crag. Brilliant viewpoint. Very steep drop down off here. Great views to Blee Tarn. We sat and had some lunch here, and then you follow along, and you need to get down this little gully. There's a path down this. There's a little bit of a gully here. It's not too bad. It's not that steep. Head down to this fence line. Get to this. There's a gate here, which accesses to Blee Tarn and Woodhenleth. You go right. Very boggy along this path, very wet. Head down into Thirlmere Forest, follow along the footpath, it's a beautiful path, and we need to go back to the other map. So back on this first map, you go along the footpath through the forest, heading to Harrop Tarn. a lot of people like to camp here. It's got a beautiful setting of these tongue crags as a backdrop. You've got like a beck and some little stepping stones here, and there's also a bridge that you can cross. We'll need to cross this bridge because we're going to follow down to the Binker Stone, which is the right hand side of the beck. So we head down here. Quite rough ground this is very boggy here, rough steps, rough ground, quite tricky. And we actually headed to the Binker Stone because you get great views over Thirlmere. Back along to the path, down to a gate to access the Thirlmere road. You can either carry on along the road back to the car park, but we went through the gate and down to Thirlmere Lake. And the path just follows along all the way back to the car park. So it was about a 7.5 mile walk, and really nice. I say a lot of it was off piste, no dangerous ground though to worry about. Just maybe a few bogs and a bit wet underfoot.